Well, good morning. It's good to see you. I wanted to virtually introduce myself. I am Brittany Pelletz. I'm the digital anchor for bigcountryhomepage.com here in Abilene, representing KTAB and KRBC. And it's nice to have you, Shelby Doyle, the Senior VP at the National School Choice Awareness Foundation.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be on air, especially in Texas. I lived in Houston for 12 years and Austin for two, so I always like talking to Texas people.
Well, we Texans love talking to others as well as Texans, so it's good. I'm very excited to get into this conversation because people have heard school choice for a long time. That's kind of really developed over several years. I guess let's talk about
Mhm.
the foundation that you work with and kind of what your sole purpose is.
Sure. So the National School Choice Awareness Foundation exists to help parents understand and use school choice more effectively. So we've been around for about 15 years running what's happening this month called National School Choice Week at the end of January that puts on events across the country with local schools and organizations that help bring school choice to life in real life near people and the right time of year to start the process of choosing a school.
So I think over the last 15 years, I'm sure it's really kind of gained, activities and involvement and community outreach. So let's talk about, I'm a mom of two kiddos who are, still in elementary years. So we've got a long way. And typically, I'm happy with the district that we're in. So I haven't really considered or thought outside of the box. But what would you say, I guess, to parents like me, about why it's important to kind of weigh out, consider options?
Yeah, I think a lot of folks out there, purchase a family home to be in a district that they think they're going to be happy with. And so a lot of folks find themselves feeling good about that in elementary school. There's also a contingent of people who, even by the time their kids start school, have started wanting something different and start this process. But especially if you have younger kids in elementary school, you've got two at minimum transitions you're going to make to middle school and to high school. And then there's all sorts of life things that might happen along the way, whether it's a move, whether it's just something comes up that's of interest to your kids or a challenge. And so you want to be prepared to think about not only where you might be able to send your kids to school, but what you might need to do in terms of processing that if that comes up. So one of the things that folks don't know if they've stayed in sort of the district system and gone where they've been assigned, a lot of times the timeline can be a little bit unclear. If you do want to choose an option with even within the public system, but especially in the private or homeschooling space, those timelines tend to happen in like the dead of winter, right in January, which is why this week happens in January. But that can be not the most natural time of year to really get in the weeds on this. We've all just survived the holidays. If you've got kids, that was a lot, even though it was great. And so we try to kick it off and give people that like catalyst to start in January because it is important to start now if you're thinking about the fall.
And so let's talk about, what options do parents have? We mentioned being districted, and so that's where you naturally feel like you're going, but let's talk about what else is out there, specifically in our area.
Sure. So you've always got some level of options within your school district. Every district does it differently. In Texas, school districts can set their own policies, but there's more than one school in your school district, right? And so open enrollment describes the flexibility you might have within your school district or within others in some cases. You also have other options in the public sector, which include charter schools and magnet schools. What is key about knowing their public schools is that it tells you two things about them. It tells you that they're free to attend, they cannot charge you tuition, and it tells you that they're open to all students. They cannot discriminate on the basis of a student having special needs, or, for instance. And so those are huge pieces of the school choice picture because they're public and they're open to all students, free to attend. Those are really popular choices with parents. And you also have everything that's out of that traditional public model. You've got private schools, of course, which have been around for forever. And Texas is getting a new program called the Education Freedom Scholarship Program that's going to help parents offset the cost of choosing a private school going into the next school year. Applications for that are opening in early February for parents. And there's also, of course, homeschooling, which is very popular in Texas. Texas has some of the most easy to homeschool under laws in the country. And then you've got online learning, which is maybe the least talked about part of this puzzle. And maybe that's because some of us have experienced it in the last few years and are not looking to go back. But at the same time, some people enjoyed that and also need it for different life circumstances or just find it works well for their kid. There are free to attend full-time online public schools in Texas as well.
All right. So there's a lot of options. How would you guide parents, I guess, to, explore what is best for them? Because, it's not a one size fits all. Parents work outside of the home. And of course, that wouldn't really be applicable for a homeschooling unless, of course, it's with a coalition or a friend, some type of unique relationship. So I guess what would you say to that?
So I would say the number one thing if you're thinking about starting the school choice process soon is to be really crystal clear as a family on what you're particularly looking for. As you open this door and go down this path, you're going to get lots of information. You're going to get information from schools, and they're going to want to tell you everything under the sun about themselves. You're also going to get lots of opinions from your lovely friends and family in your life, and they all have their own experiences with schools in your community. All of that's really helpful, and it can actually be too much information if you don't go in with a really clear vision for not just what you generally like about schools, but what you are looking for in a particular school for your particular student you're choosing for. Because it isn't one size fits all. And a great school that maybe your cousins went to, that maybe your neighbor sends their kid to, might not be the right destination for your particular kid that you're the expert on. So getting really crystal clear and as goofy as it sounds, like writing down like a mission statement or what your top three deal breakers are can be really clarifying as you get into the weeds on this. You're really considering broadly. It'll help you come back and make some decisions once you get all this valuable information.
Okay, well, so leading up, you said kind of getting ahead of this in January. So this would be for the following school year. So what things or opportunities? I know it was suggested that things in the Abilene and I believe Sweetwater area that are happening. And
Mhm.
so what can we say to those events to make our, viewing area aware of what they can do in person or virtually or coming up?
Yeah. So if you're interested in attending an in-person event during National School Choice Week, we have a list of events that you can search by your particular area at schoolchoiceweek.com. So particularly in the Abilene area, there are schools that are hosting open houses or spirit weeks or assemblies that are open to the public. The idea is to basically bring the school experience that they offer to life to prospective families. If you ever need help locating an event that you might want to attend, you can always reach our team. Our website is schoolchoiceweek.com, and we've got ways to get in touch with us there. But we want to connect you to what's happening in your local area.
And I don't know, in your experience of working with this foundation, kind of on the year to year change, maybe somebody did step out of the districted school and try to charter school or one private. What has kind of been the feedback that you've received, I guess? Is there a lot of movement after that first move outside of what is normal or expected?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So, we definitely have seen shifts in trends generally about what parents are choosing. A couple years ago, the fastest growing form of school choice was charter schools. In our survey this year, parents are more interested in private and homeschooling. What we see typically, it's we don't have a lot of great longitudinal data about folks who've made multiple choices over the course of the years. What we do know, what we're finding to be more and more common, is there's more families who are sending their multiple kids to very different types of schools under the same roof, especially as school choice policies make that easier to do. We survey families every year, and every year a greater percentage of them are sending their kids. One's going to public, one's going to private, one's homeschooled. I don't know how they're making the logistics work, but my hats are off to them. But folks are getting very creative about not just generally choosing a school for their family, but really pairing it with the particular kids in their household, which I think is interesting.
I also admire that too, because in my head, I have got two children. They're very different, not so much so that I would think they'd need entirely different schooling, but I could understand why some families would want to cater to the needs of one specific that maybe this school, is known for and can cater to. But yeah, getting them to two different places, is already athletically a challenge. So academically on the daily would be interesting for sure. Just to get a little personal, do you also have children or
I do. I have a son and a daughter on the way right now. Neither of them
congratulations?
are of school age yet, but definitely thinking about it, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually is perfect for people who may be watching who don't have children too. What advice or guidance would you suggest, for, it may seem like it's too early to know and schools could change in the time that, they are school age ready. So what recommendations would you have?
Yeah, if you're like me, you're new to having kids and don't have them in school yet, or that's something you're thinking about in the future, you probably still have had conversations with the people in your life about where you need to buy your family home, right? To be near this school or that school. That already comes up from the moment you start thinking about where you're going to live as a family. So advice I would give you if you're kind of in that life stage is it's good to be getting informed as you go. If you've been through the process of changing to having kids, you know that it is a whirlwind. Time goes very quickly. The more you can learn when you're outside of that crazy first few years of parenthood, the better. And by the time your child's in, that 3-year-old stage, you're likely going to be choosing between pre-Ks, some of which are going to be part of your public school system and are going to flow into even that kindergarten choice. So it's really closer than you think. And I would recommend being aware. And the more you can become passively aware, the less it's going to feel like you have to do, a ton to catch up when the time comes to start choosing.
All right. Well, this has been very valuable in terms of education and awareness, and I understand that's a large part of the of what you do to try to spread the word. And I guess talk about your partnership maybe with schools such as in Texas in our area of Abilene of I don't know if it's giving them the tools or kind of
Yeah.
working together to get the word out and bring people in to check out what they have to offer.
Yeah. So the way that our foundation partners with schools is to give them the tools and supplies they might need to prepare and plan a great event for their local community during School Choice Week. And then we work with them to get the information on what they're planning, put it all in one place for parents across the country so that they can find what's going on near them. So in really practical terms, that looks like sending schools that are planning a celebration supplies, information about how school choice works in their state, and getting them connected even with others in their area who are planning something. So we do that with 26,000 schools every year. That's how many are celebrating this year. We reach out to every school in the country to ask them if they want to be part of it every year. And we also work with bigger community organizations in lots of areas who want to plan a larger scale event that touches lots of different schools in the area. So particularly in Texas, for example, there are school fairs going on in San Antonio and in Houston and in Austin this year that'll have hundreds and hundreds of families coming, dozens and dozens of schools under one roof. And the idea is to really kick off that process in person of kind of shopping for a school. But everybody gets to choose what they do during the week. We try to support them and give them supplies and get the word out about what they do choose to plan.
And obviously, Abilene being much smaller than the cities you listed, we don't have anything quite as large, to my knowledge, on the calendar.
That's right.
But certainly things will be happening and probably can happen on a more intimate basis, even with those connections of just a phone call and saying, I'm interested, and that kind of relationship.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. There are dozens of schools in the Abilene area that know it's National School Choice Week that have registered with us that they're celebrating National School Choice Week. So if you're a parent looking for a school, you can not only find out what those schools are through us, but as you're having conversations and kicking out the process directly, those schools are going to be excited to talk to you and know that it's the time they want to start making those connections.
All right. Well, Shelby, this has been a very good conversation. Is there anything that we didn't touch upon that you think that should be shared with our families that may be watching?
If you're interested in participating in the week, you can always head to schoolchoiceweek.com to find out about events. And if you are doing this outside of National School Choice Week itself, we do have year-round tools for you, and you can get to those from the same website. We'll walk you through what exists out there for you and how to actually go about choosing a school. We're here for you and happy to help all 52 weeks of the year.
All right. Well, Shelby Doyle, the Senior VP at the National School Choice Awareness Foundation, we're grateful for your time and thanks for, sharing this conversation with parents so that they know that they have choices when it comes to their kids' schooling.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations with the little one on the way. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye bye.